I've heard you identify yourself as either a witness or a
When have I ever identified myself? I'm here as a witness. How can I identify myself? But anyway, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, there's three things that you said that I just one.
Go ahead. I don't know what
Okay.
that is in the background.
One thing, when you use the word perjury and when you use the word claim, and when you say you would identify yourself as a friend of the court, but if I'm friends with another flesh and blood man, when you say friend of the court, it sounds like you would have to identify yourself as a fiction to be a friend of another fiction. And friend
Well,
of the
is the court a fiction, or is the court just like saying I'm a friend of all you people in this room at the moment? The court, the people in the room. And as far as identifying myself, I don't know where you get that from, because I believe I'm a witness, or I'm a peaceful inhabitant in here, acting or visiting as a peaceful inhabitant. And I'd like to give some first-hand testimony here that may help settle the matter honorably. As far as identify oneself, how does one identify oneself? Maybe I'm in the morning, I'm a father to the children. Maybe in the afternoon, I'm the milkman. Who knows? But to identify oneself, I'm here. What more is there to identify other than what's before you at the moment?
Well,
to be identical to identify something, you mean you got a twin? Help me here.
So the word identify, this is what gets confusing, is because when I look
at
the
court is a place of the sojourner.
Okay, gotcha. You there?
Go ahead. Forgive me for interrupting.
I forgot. We were talking about identifying oneself. Like you say, the word identify. What does identify mean? Well, like you say, a mirror image, a copy, a twin. Every word of the English language has so many different languages. I've always just walked around assuming, each word has a couple of different meanings. Some of them have 30 or 20 different meanings. And when we string those words together, it becomes very confusing as to what do we really mean when we're saying what we're saying.
So would it make sense to ask questions?
I think so, because it's the only way that you can actually, like you say, have a meeting of the minds. Yeah, I really don't know what, especially in a legal sense. Anyone who identifies themselves to me as a government or county employee or tax collector or paralegal or whatever, if someone's identifying themselves to me as a legal person acting in a commercial capacity, well then I'm now talking to someone who's already identified themselves to me as a fictional legal person.
Well, allegedly, but the point of the matter is when they identify themselves like that, what they believe to be doing anyway, would it make sense to ask them, when's the last time you ever met your boss?
Yeah, I call that the sledgehammer of truth, which I'm finding that I really don't want to, if you're real just frank and upfront with these people, if you just call a spade and just go, look, you know what, let's not, what we're talking about with money is we're talking about.
Wait a minute, who's calling anybody anything? I asked them if they ever met their boss. How does that turn into what you're saying?
I'm talking about defining things like.
Well, how are you going to define them until you start asking them and try to get these words we put out are thoughts we're trying to get across to one another.
Right.
And so if it takes a couple hours to get over the word is until we understand exactly what we mean by is, would that make sense? Especially in a courtroom.
Well, for the purposes of clarification and full disclosure, Boris likes to use the term full disclosure. I tend to use the word clarification, but it's pretty much the same thing. Nobody wants to act in fraud, and if you ask someone, well, what did you mean by that? And they refuse to respond to that, kind of sounds like nobody wants to avoid entering into fraud.
Well, it sounds like you're making a lot of assumptions here.
Well,
you said nobody wants to be involved in fraud. Now, could you mean by nobody, you mean all the people in the world, or you mean there's nobody?
I would say people that have taken an oath and that identify themselves as public officials. I would say they, according to their law, they don't want to act in fraud.
Guess Levin might have a point here. Assumption is fraud. Could that be true?
Assumption? Well, I'm responsible for my actions. Two questions I would ask is, am I responsible for other people's beliefs and opinions? And am I responsible for other people's actions?
Are you? The thing of it is, it seems like you know what they believe and what their actions are and whatnot. So the way you're explaining things to me anyway, that's what it appears to me anyway. So.
Well, I hear people identifying me.
Who's identifying you? How can you do that?
Well, it's happened to me when someone dressed in a name tag and a costume, police uniform, starts telling me who I am and what I'm doing.
Are you sure he's talking to you? Or maybe he's got an imaginary bunny rabbit he's talking to.
He grabbed my physical arm and dragged me to the car. I think he was focused on me.
Well, I've been there and seen how you were handling the matter, because I've had just the opposite happen to me. I've been surrounded by them, and they wouldn't touch me until I gave them jurisdiction. But that's the way I saw it anyway.
I was timid and unsure, and I didn't have any conviction, and I know I handled it wrong. But he was definitely.
But I love them butts, especially nice round ones. Anyway. Yeah, it's me, but really them. That's what you're telling me, right?
Well, he was telling me, he was identifying me. He was telling me who I was and what I was doing. He was looking right at me.
Well, did you ask him? Are you sure he was seeing straight?
Well, I was identifying myself as a man.
Oh, prove it. There's a lot of women that dress up look just like men. Why even go there? Why identify? How can I help you? I'm asking the questions around here. He says, you are. Well, if you're the only one asking the questions, how am I supposed to figure out what you're asking for? Huh?
Well, then, what am I?
Good question.
Every morning when I wake up, I ask myself three questions: who am I? What am I doing? And why am I doing it?
I am. I think, therefore I am. Or is it true that just thoughts occur? Who knows?
Well,
maybe
I
we're
appear
all
to be
just part of everything.
I appear to be in physical form. Why wouldn't I identify myself as nature manifest in physical form? And we call this physical form a man.
If it makes you happy, go for it. Me, I'm over that stage of life. Well, if it is such a thing. I'm regressing or digressing. I'm going back to being a little child. I'm just here to ask the questions. That's the way I kind of look at it more and more every day. And I sleep pretty good at night, too. Better than I used to, anyway.
So you don't even find it necessary to identify yourself as
Why?
A physical anything, then?
Anybody comes at you making accusations, well, is it true the burden of the proof is on them? I want to ask them why they believe that, what they believe that I am, and can prove it. Can I prove that I am anything other? I tell you what I am. I say I believe I'm an inhabitant, but other than that, I mean, what else is it? I'm allegedly a spirit in a flesh and blood body made of the so-called world, in the world, not of the world. I'm just here using it, enjoying the ride, bro. How can I help you?